Okay, Arrival Cities Final Conference, URBACT, and we are here with Sabina Kekic, who is the coordinator of the EU Urban Agenda. So Sabina, you have been working with the EU Urban Agenda for 2 years. I think for URBACT listener, this interview will be interesting to know what the Urban Agenda is and what your partnership is actually doing.
Okay, that's a lot. So very brief, the Urban Agenda is meant to involve cities more into European policy making. And this is done through 3 main focus points, let's say, or main objectives, either by providing better access to funding for cities or better knowledge exchange between cities and the European Commission, or better EU regulations for cities. So within our partnership, we focused on these 3 objectives, and we developed quite concrete projects, I think, to really either improve the funding. So for example, we wrote very technical recommendations on how access to funding for cities with regards to integration and inclusion can be improved. But for example, also worked on better exchange on knowledge between cities and the Commission by setting up an academy, which is called Academy on Integration. So there are just some examples on what we did.
Okay, how do you think the Urban Agenda can improve the connection between cities, as you said, but also between cities and the European level? So what kind of action in terms of communication are undertaken within the Urban Agenda?
I think one of the big changes what the agenda brought was that the cities were not represented by only an organization, because they were there, like umbrella organizations such as Eurocities, which is of course great to have, but the cities themselves were also sitting at the table with the Commission and talking, and I think that even made it stronger, like the position of Eurocities, which is strong, but also having the cities directly sitting with the Commission also changed something in the way cities are working, because they now really saw like what the Commission did through their own eyes and the other way around. The Urban Agenda also, together with this communication team, also really worked on showing what we are doing at the European level. Because you can imagine for cities, the EU level is quite far away, because your first issue is working on the ground. So really providing jobs for, in our case, people with a migrant and refugee background, or education, housing, work. So then if you experience some issue, you look at the national level. But that is already like quite a step. So the European level is really far away. So there has to be some extra communication from the Commission towards the cities and the other way around to really enhance that, and I think the Urban Agenda did that.
This specific partnership is working on migrants and refugees, and they are supposed to be the final beneficiaries of the proposals that are created and the actions that are defined within the Urban Agenda. Can you please tell, how do you actually involve associations or initiatives that are migrant-led within the work of the Urban Agenda? So
we did, I think, quite some things to involve people with a migrant and refugee background. I think one of the biggest things we did was we organized a conference with around 80 people with a migrant and refugee background, in which we presented our actions and our plans on what we wanted to do. And also consulted with them, is this something that in the end will help you? So through that conference, 2 projects were born or were added to our ideas. One of them was the setting up of a board, which consists of migrants and refugees, and the idea of and those are people already working in the city, also in professional level. They also have a background in being a migrant or refugee. And they will advise the European Commission and also European institutions on better integration policies. The other thing what came out of the conference with the migrants and refugees was also setting up of of a structure in which it makes it easier for migrant entrepreneurs to get access to microfinancing. So that's also something we're working on now.
Yes, I'm thinking like the complexity of the problem is really can be overwhelming.
Yes.
If you start to think from the very, very micro level,
yes,
history of migrants and refugees, a single person to organization and cities and so on to the European level, it's enormous. So what are the best wishes from your point of view? What do you think you want to achieve with the urban agenda? What are the limits, things that you cannot achieve with this whole process?
I think, well, in the end, what we want to achieve, especially as a city, we really want to bring the European added value of the EU to the city, because that is often not seen, and especially also for migrants and refugees. So that's something we really want to achieve. The other thing, I think both the EU as well as migrants and refugees, there's a negative narrative, and we hope by really showing what the added value is of either involving migrants and refugees into European policy making, as well as showing all the good things that the EU can bring and how they can help the integration of migrants and refugees. That's how we really hope to change some